Knowing you as we do, as authorities on the matter of the enchanted, and given the signal assistance you've provided the cause, we thought that you would appreciate, in addition to your fee, the sight of our most prized relic. The young constable spoke in tremendously enthusiastic, run-on sentences, scattered unevenly with moments of pause for breath. She was a long-faced woman, lanky like most of the Avenir tended to be, her hair cropped short, except for a lock at the front worn long. Her name was Lodovi Setchworth, or at least Dr. Catt thought it was. He and Dr. Fisher had just been introduced to around 19 separate Avenir, all of them earnest and most of them young, and his memory for names wasn't what it used to be. They were in the belly of a barge, a Sheliak vessel heading east for Arvin and loaded up with soldiers, finally being repatriated after the war, having spent quite a while on other people's doorsteps, making them nervous. Traveling to Arvin had never been particularly on Catt's list of favorite things to do, what with the locals' prickly customs and general suspicion of foreigners. But there were mitigating circumstances. He was, after all, doing a favor for a fellow collector, in return for a particularly pleasing reward, so perhaps favor was not entirely the word, whilst at the same time, and independently delivering a choice piece to a particularly high-status buyer within the Arvenir hierarchy. And, at the same time, he appeared to have fallen in with revolutionaries. Dr. Fisher had somehow not managed to fall in with the same revolutionaries, despite sharing a boat and all business dealings with them. Instead, they were all reserving their zeal entire for an audience of one somewhat fatigued Dr. Catt, possibly mistaking his veneer of politeness for actual interest. Fisher, for his part, covered his core of surly misanthropy only with a veneer of even surlier misanthropy. Lodovi had a case out now, and was fiddling with the clasps, all the while keeping up a constant keen patter. Catt was used to the old pre-war image of Arvenir as haughty and nationalistic, with never a kind word to say for anyone born outside their borders. Lodovi and her crop of young veterans, in contrast, had actually travelled and fought in other lands alongside allies from all over the free world. She had seen how things were done elsewhere, and, perhaps more pointedly, how Arvin was generally regarded. Right now she was in full flow about how much she admired Cherivell, Catt's own home. She singled out the participatory decentralized government, the commercial freedom, and the fact that the laborers and workers of that land were not simply accounted as property of a clique of warrior orders. Orders such as the one Lodovi herself belonged to, of course, but she was at least hoping to use that privilege for the good of others. Catt's own dealings with the woman had been to source a bundle of enchanted war surplus for the cause: magic blades, arrows, charms against the more common sorts of curses thrown about by Arvenir civic clerics. Nothing, in his opinion, that would actually swing a revolution, which salved his conscience a bit, given that he was simultaneously engaged in selling artifacts to the very people Lodovi was trying to unseat. Lodovi was entirely aware this wasn't ever going to change a regime on its own, however. She had the case open and was proudly displaying its contents. As an expert, you'll recognize the power in this and know its proud heritage, she explained. Gaze upon the Lily Oriflamme, grand standard of Arvin, believed lost at the Battle of Struander. Catt did indeed gaze upon it, with one of those sinking feelings that seemed to occur to him with distressing regularity, and yet which he really never was able to link with the appropriate causal actions he himself might have set in motion. At his side, Dr. Fisher made a sort of snorting sound that indicated he, too, was aware of a certain looming problem. The Lily Oriflamme, which had once been merely the flag of the appropriate floral-named warrior order, but had gone on to become the rallying point for all the armies of Arvin, was a mighty piece of enchantment indeed. It was said that, once it had been planted in the earth, no Arvin warrior would desert the field, nor know fear. They would flock to its shadow, and then stand until they triumphed, or until they died. And Catt, no slouch in his magical appraising, was well aware it was a powerful piece of business, and quite capable of living up to its reputation. And at Struanda, the first major engagement on Arvanir's soil when the Kinslayer turned his mighty armies east, the Arvanir orders had been broken, and the Oriflamme had fallen beneath the iron boots of the Yorogon, never to be recovered.